everybody, welcome back to Taji's World of Books, and welcome to another book series recommendation video. Hey you guys, so welcome back. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to talk about two different series that I read while I was on vacation, so thank you guys for tuning in. So as you know, last week I was away on vacation, and I took with me the Quintessent collection by Serena Aykroyd. Look at this chunker. Oh my gosh. So there are 3 books in the series, and I absolutely love Serena Aykroyd. I love her so much. She is an amazing writer, and she writes romances, contemporary romances like no one else. They are complicated stories that she tells the tale and weaves a intricate connection of all the characters together in a very, very interesting way. And so this was the perfect poolside beach read for me. So I'm going to talk about the first book in the series because I don't want to spoil too much. But at the same time, there's not a lot to spoil because it is a contemporary romance. It is a reverse harem situation. And you guys know I do not like reverse harems. They generally don't work for me. But in this series, oh my gosh, it works so well. And here's why it works. There's the main character or heroine. Her name is Sasha. And Sasha goes for a job interview. And she goes for a job interview and she knows that she is going to be a housekeeper. This is all set in the UK. She's American, but she followed a boyfriend to the UK. And she set up residency there. They separated, they broke up. She doesn't want to leave because the UK is now home for her, and so she decides that she's going to find some employment. So she goes through an employment agency and she takes a interview for a position to be the head housekeeper and live-in situation with 5 gentlemen. Okay, so when she goes to the interview, she quickly starts to realize that she's going to be doing everything. It's a split-level home. There are 5 guys there, and she realizes that this is, a unique situation. And she decides, like, I really like the guy. She interviews with Sean, and she really likes Sean, and she says, okay, she's like, I will take the position. And she's kind of through the interview recognizes that there's more to the situation than meets the eye. And so then he says, you know what? Why don't you sign the NDA first? Once you sign think it over tonight. If you decide you want to take it, you want to stay, you'll sign the NDA. We will explain all of it to you then. And she's like, something's up. But she's like, you know what? I'm open-minded, and Sean is incredibly hot. And she like kind of meets the first 3 guys, and she's like, every guy in this house is like making my ovaries hurt. Like, they are just gorgeous. So she's like, something's up. But like, let me just go ahead and sign this NDA. And she signs it, and then he basically says, we are 5 gentlemen. We are all like Nobel scholars. We are laureate poets. They are all genius level dudes, over the top gorgeous. And they are all together. They are friends or mates from college. And they basically have to stay together because Devin, who's one of the gentlemen, is basically on the autism spectrum. He's so brilliant that his mind doesn't operate at lower levels. He's up here and he's a complex mathematician, but like down here with social nuances and social graces, he has none. And so for whatever reason, they have decided that it only works if they share a woman, because individually they're terrible partners because they're so devoted to their work, but as a collective, it makes much more sense that the woman would get everything that they needed for each and every one of them. And so from my memory, it's Sean, who is a criminologist. It's because, like I said, I read this on vacation, so I didn't take notes. So Sean is a criminologist. Kurt is a writer, and he's written crime novels, and they are like bestseller, New York Times bestseller. Like, he's an amazing, turning into like movies and whatnot. So that's Kurt. Then there's Andre, who is Russian. And he's connected to the Bratva. There is Sawyer, who is a Scot, and then there's Devin. So right, Sean, Kurt, Andre, Sawyer, and Devin. And they all are unique and special in their own way. And so when Sasha really thinks about this, she decides that she is going to take on these 5 guys, and this is their story. So it works so beautifully because everybody in this story, every gentleman brings something unique to the table and necessary to the table. And they all have unique and special relationships. There's no sword crossing in this. There is situations where there are two guys and Sasha, but for the most part, it's all about their individual relationships with Sasha and their unit collectively as a family. And it is amazing. It is one of the best outside of Den of Vipers. This is the only other reverse harem that I've ever read. I read Den of Vipers, which really worked for me. I read Credence, which technically it's not a reverse harem, but some people say it is, but that worked. And then this. It is amazing. Everybody is essential. Everybody is unique. Everybody brings something to the table, and they all are surrounded around taking care of Devin and taking care of Sasha and making sure that everybody gets what they need so that it works for everyone. There is also, it can be classified as a romantic suspense because there is some nefarious elements that are trying to infiltrate this situation. There are a couple situations outside that you're trying to figure out who, what, when, where, how. There is a threat against Sasha's life, so they're trying to figure out who's doing that and why they're doing that. And this ends on a serious cliffhanger, a cliffhanger like no other. And so you're just like, oh my God, what's happening? So I gave this an overall 5. I gave it a spice rating of a 3.75 and an angst of a 3. It's really, really good. So then the next book in the series is Theirs to Cherish. Now, I don't like how, I didn't mind it as much, but I don't like that Serena set this book and she tells you right on page 1 to be aware that at this point, because like I said, this ends on a cliffhanger. Like, you're like, what? What's going to happen? So how did it go? Like, because there's something that went down. And so you want to know immediately what happens. And then it jumps. It says, at this point, please be aware Theirs to Cherish is set years ahead of Hers to Keep. And you're like, I want to know. And it's like about 3 years, I think 3-4 years, something like that. So you want to know like what happened in between, and you get it, but you don't get it. So there was an interesting way to evolve the story, and I loved this book nonetheless because it is about the continuation of their lives. There again is another threat. There is another situation that has arisen that has to be resolved. There are some other like really heartbreaking things that go down in this book. Again, it is masterfully well done. It's beautiful. I absolutely loved it. It is a 5-star for sure. It is, again, 3.75 to a 4 spice rating and an angst of a 4. It is so, so good, you guys. It's so good. And so then, again, this ends on like a bang. And it ends on a cliffhanger. And so you're like, oh my God, I need to know more. I need to know more. So then you go into the next story. And this one sort of threw me off. This is Hers to Hold. And I don't know, like she chose to end this in a weird sort of way. And she tells you in here in the foreword, like it's warning time. So it says, have you read the Verona collection, Perry and Her Princes? Does that ring a bell? If not, I recommend that you grab it. So definitely, I would suggest that before you read this book, you read Perry and Her Princes, the Verona collection. It's another, and I think it's been rebranded and repackaged as Theirs. Because really, the ending of this, the second half, I would say like the second half of this book, honestly, is the ending. It bridges that series, Theirs, with this book. Sorry, the gardener's right here. It bridges that series with this. So, if you haven't read Theirs, like it's almost like you read the first half of this, then you set it down, because then it jumps like a crazy amount of time. I can't remember. It like jumps like 20 years or something like that. It's weird. Yeah, like it jumps 20 years. And then when you do that, you read the first half of this, put this down, read Theirs, the Verona collection, finish that, then come back and read the second half of this book, because this really is the ending to that series. Like it's a merging of the two series, if you will. So the time frame is that happens in between this. So if that makes any sense at all. So if you don't read it like that, you're kind of like, this is weird, I haven't read theirs. I don't know why you chose to end it this way. I don't really care about these characters, so why are they plopped in here? But it really is a merging of the two, and it's the bridge that gaps those two series together, if that makes any sense at all. So, having said that, I gave this a 4, I gave this a spice of a 2, and I gave it an angst of a 2. So, all right. So that's the end of that series. Like I said, Serena Aykroyd writes like nobody's business. So then the next book that I want to talk about is the Beautiful Nightmare series. This is book 4 in this collection by K.J. Sutton. And so remember that this is the Fortuna Swan. So I think it's like there's Fortuna Swan, and there's Nightmare, and then this one, I can't remember the other ones, but they are all, and I do plan on going back and reading all of these books again. So just to know, there are 6 total books in this series. So she has not written. She's in the process of writing 5 and 6 now. Let me say, we have no idea when book 5 is going to be coming out. She said it likely will be about a year and a half from now. And so the story picks up where the first 2, and I'll link the video somewhere up here where I talk about the other 3 books in the first 3 books in the series. It picks up right where the story left off. That ended in a cliffhanger. And so it kind of, you don't really need to reread those to read this, but I think you would have had a better experience, or I would have had a better experience if I would have read those 3 books again and then read this, because I was sort of a little bit dismissed or a little bit separated from the story. While I was still able to pick it up and follow it, I think it would have been like over the top if I would have done it that way. So before book 5 comes out, because it'll be like I said, another year and a half or whatever, I will read all the 4 books first and then read that, so I'll be immersed in the world again. So remember, Fortuna is a nightmare, and know that Fortuna, she is the last nightmare in this world, and Fortuna is the kind of character, she's morally gray, and she's surrounded by morally gray characters as well. So sometimes you love her, sometimes you hate her, sometimes you're confused by her. Fortuna has a lot of trauma. She has experienced a ton of trauma. But the trauma that she has experienced is trauma from her own making. From the choices that she makes, she puts herself in terrible situations, okay? Then there's Colith. Colith is a past love. He was the king of the, I believe, the Seelie court. He was the king of the Seelie, the Unseelie court. Then there is his counterpart, Laurie, who is the king of the Seelie court. And then there is Oliver, and Oliver is a figment of Fortuna's imagination and her memories and her dreams. And she has been with Oliver since they were children, and she has loved Oliver since they were children, but he only exists in her dream, and so in the dreamscape. Okay, so then you have a bunch of secondary characters as well. So in this particular book, you have old rivalries that are back, new rivals are introduced. Like I said, at times you love Fortuna, at other times you are maddened by her. She is, in essence, in this particular book, she has gone from being queen of the Unseelie court to being no longer queen of the Unseelie court, to being kidnapped by the Seelie court, to creating a court of her own. She now has this new power and ability to bind characters that's almost like the mating bond, but they are bound to her, and she uses that at will, and I don't like it, because for me it takes away people's wills. Although the characters in here that she does this with are grateful and happy and want to be bound to her and want to be part of her court, even though they don't call it a court, but it seems like she's creating her own court. They want to be part of it. I would much rather, and there's a scene in here where she does it to someone whom they don't want it, and the bond that she creates is more wild, and it's not the same as when somebody is willingly entering in this. And so she does things that she holds others in contempt for, but she would have done that, if not worse, if she were in that circumstance. Now, she does, in this particular book, sort of get angry and upset at herself, because she's like, I'm a monster, I'm a terrible person. But at the same time, and she looks at the stuff that she does, and she calls herself out on it. She's like, that's shitty. I did that. I did it again. but I needed to do it because of XYZ thing, and you get it and you understand it, but at the same time, you're like, girl, oh no, you're racking up points in terms of being, you know, not well liked. But at the same time, the people that are around her, when they look at the circumstances, they're like, I get why you did what you did. So it's a very interesting dynamic. It's very interesting that, you know, KJ Sutton has been writing in this world with Fortuna since 2019, and she definitely says that the next book, book 5, is going to be smutty and spicy, and it's going to bring in all of the thing, because it's like storylines are being wrapped up, stuff is happening. She does tell us of the characters, the main characters. She says that 3 characters are going to die, and they're going to be permanent deaths. And so I thought that this was going to work out to be, because she, at this point, she has already been in relationships with multiple people in multiple situations. So we don't know what's happening. We don't know who she's going to end up with. And there are definite delineations and demarcations in terms of reading this, whether you are team this person or team that person. It kind of puts you into the same space of A Court of Thorn and Roses, or it puts you into, you know, Twilight sort of situations. You know, so if you haven't read it, you absolutely should. And like I've said in the past, she definitely, KJ Sutton definitely gives Holly Black vibes of the fairy and the fae. They're gritty and dirty and just, you know, very dark. But she also brings in, you know, Cassandra Clare with The Wild Hunt, and then she brings in Sarah J. Maas with A Court of Thorn and Roses. And she tells you, like, if you think that you're going to get a Sarah J. Maas, like A Court of Thorn and Roses with this, like, you're sadly mistaken. It's not that. But if you melded all of those worlds together, then you get that in this particular series. And it delivers in so many ways. And I know my heart is going to be broken in this. I'm going to stick with the series, and I know I'm going to be devastated. It's going to break me. But I'm here for it in every sense of the word. This is one of the best sort of fantasy, romance kind of books that I have read in a really long time, and it delivers it, like I said, in so many ways. So I gave this an overall 4.75, and I gave it a 4.75 and not a 5 because I wasn't as immersed in the world as I would have been. Like, I think if I read it like straight through, like I would have been there, because I would have remembered there were some, you know, references to things that have happened in the past. I was like, what was that? I kind of remember that. I kind of don't. So, and I like to be right there. So that's kind of on me. And I gave it a spice of a 3, and I gave it an angst of a 4. And again, like I said, it's a fantasy romance, and there is a love triangle, but that love triangle is not really happening anymore. Like, it kind of is set and it's solidified. And KJ Sutton does say that when it comes out in the wash, when you get to the end of this, she's not going to kill off a character, and that's why she makes a choice. Like, she makes a clear choice beforehand, and then there are still some deaths, permanent, like dead, you dead, death situations, but we will know who the love interests are. And there, like I said, there are demarcations. Some people are 100% this team, and other people are 100% other team. And so, like I said, if you haven't read this, do not miss the party. Like, go and get them. You got plenty of time. You know, we waited a long time for this book to come out on audio. It was supposed to be out in audio in March, and it got delayed from March 1st to April 19th. So it was very delayed. So we, like I said, we got some time. We don't even have the cover yet for the 5th book, but she's in the process of working on it. And so it'll probably be about a year and a half, expected to be about like this length. So you got plenty of time to catch up, to do the reread. I don't know. I was thinking of hosting a reading, you know, read along, and I'll slow it way down for folks, but we do a read along like with this particular book or series to kind of get prepared for when the next book comes up. If that's something that you guys are interested in, put it in the comments below and we can talk about how to arrange that. But that's this. Okay, you guys, so that's all that I have for today. I hope that you found something interesting and some little nuggets there. Please let me know in the comments below. Do me a favor and hit that bell notification button so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video, which is generally 3 times a week. And you have to subscribe to the channel because that also helps you to get notified when I'm uploading, and it helps me. And I would really, really appreciate it. And hit that like button, and also comment below, because the more traction and comments and, you know, conversation that we get in the comment section lets the YouTube algorithm know that you're finding this video interesting and there are cool things to say about it and people are talking about it. So I don't know, that's all. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you each and every day for all the support that you guys give me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.